The Montana sky stretched endlessly above, a boundless expanse of blue that swallowed the world whole. I stood on my sister Sarah's in-laws' ranch, an ocean of land far removed from my life in Seattle. Sarah had married David, a man whose presence seemed sculpted from the very earth he roamed, strong, quiet, and possessing an unspoken intensity that both unsettled and intrigued me. From the moment I arrived, an electric current hummed between David and me, a pull I couldn't ignore. It was a strange sensation, like a whisper in the air, the kind that stirred something within but remained unspoken. Every glance, every brush of the air between us seemed charged, as if we both knew something without naming it. One evening, Sarah decided to take the children to a local rodeo. The thought of being alone with David unsettled me, a flutter of nerves dancing in my stomach, but I forced a casual smile. "Enjoy yourselves?" I said, watching their car disappear down the long drive, the silence left behind heavier than I expected. David poured whiskey for us both, the amber liquid glowing in the firelight. "So, Alex," his voice rumbled, warm and low, "Sarah says you're quite the tech whiz." I shrugged, feeling my pulse quicken under his steady gaze. "I work with computers," I answered, trying to sound unaffected. He leaned back in his chair, the fire casting shadows over his weathered features. "Life here, it's different. It's all about the land, the animals, the rhythm of it all," he said, his words hanging between us like a promise. I nodded, my eyes tracing the movement of his hand as he held the glass, the roughness of his fingers catching my attention in a way that made it hard to focus. The silence that followed felt thick, as if the very air was holding its breath. "You ever think about leaving the city?" he asked, his gaze locking onto mine with such intensity that my breath caught in my throat. "Sometimes," I murmured, "but I don't know if I could do this. It's too different." A low chuckle escaped him, a sound that sent a shiver down my spine. "You might surprise yourself," he said, his eyes lingering a moment too long. The evening stretched on, the conversation flowing between us, easy but laced with something unspoken. As the fire died down, the warmth in the room grew more intimate, and I began to feel the invisible thread between us tighten, its pull undeniable. When David refilled our glasses, his hand brushed mine. A fleeting touch, but one that seemed to burn, leaving a trace of heat in its wake. "You're different from Sarah," he said, his voice lower now, tinged with something I couldn't quite place. "More reserved, more contained." The words settled in the space between us like a secret. My heart beat faster, the quiet storm inside me growing. I knew this was dangerous, yet I couldn't stop it. Something in me needed this closeness. "I guess I am," I whispered, my voice barely a breath. He leaned closer, his presence overwhelming. "I see something in you, Alex," he murmured, his lips dangerously close to my ear. "A depth, a fire, that you keep hidden." His fingers traced the line of my jaw, the touch so soft it sent a wave of shivers across my skin. I closed my eyes, overwhelmed by the warmth of his breath, the scent of him, the cologne, the earth, the fire. Everything in me screamed this was wrong, but there was a part, buried deep within, that longed for this. "David," I whispered, my voice shaky. "Don't," he breathed, his lips grazing my neck. "Don't say anything." And then his lips found mine. The kiss began slowly, tentative, but soon deepened, a rush of need, of something unspoken, a storm finally breaking free. My mind screamed to pull away, to stop this madness, but my body betrayed me. His touch, his presence, set something inside me alight that I could no longer control. His hands moved over me, tracing the lines of my body, sending waves of warmth through me. My own hands pulled him closer, desperate to feel his skin, the heat of him against me. The world outside seemed to vanish, and all that remained was the pulse of our connection, the fire crackling in the hearth as though mirroring the fire between us. We moved, silently, as if carried by some unseen current, our clothes discarded in the wake of our need. The isolation of the ranch, the vastness of the land, made everything feel more intense, more forbidden. The rushing sound of the nearby river seemed to pulse in time with our own heartbeat. The night passed in a blur. Every touch, every kiss, every breath a heady mix of fear and longing. I could feel it, something shifting inside me, something that had been locked away for too long, finally breaking free. When dawn broke, the first light creeping through the window, it was as if the world had resumed its rhythm, but everything felt changed. I lay beside David, his face peaceful in sleep, while a cold knot of guilt settled in my chest. What had I done? The weight of it pressed down on me, filling my lungs, making it hard to breathe. I slipped from the bed, moving quietly, trying to leave without waking him. I dressed slowly, each movement deliberate as I replayed the night in my mind. The intensity of it, the way he looked at me, the way we moved together as if nothing else mattered. There was confusion in me, regret, but also something else. A lingering thrill, a deep, pulsing need I couldn't fully name. Stepping outside, the cool Montana air hit me like a shock, but the beauty of the landscape, wide, open, endless, did little to calm the chaos inside. The vast sky seemed to hold its breath as if waiting, watching, for something to unfold. I walked back to the main house, the scent of pine and damp earth filling the air, mingling with the memory of his skin on mine. The secret between us, the unspoken bond forged in the quiet hours of the night, followed me, a weight that would remain with me long after the ranch had faded from view. The vastness of Montana stretched before me, but the isolation felt different now, as though it had been made by my own hand. The memory of his touch would never fully fade, burning into my memory like a brand, a reminder of the night everything changed.